This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. You know when you get a feeling about someone? Well, I got a feeling about our first author, L Hines. Just listening to her talk about writing, her background, her creative process, her fans. She strikes me as a very kind, simple, and understated young woman who's still figuring life out and taking us on the journey with her. She credits her job as a factory worker in Ohio for providing the atmosphere to create her stories, including her first published book, Winter's Kiss.
I've been writing for a really long time, pretty much as long as I can remember. Working where I do, it gives me a lot of time to think and create the stories and shape my characters. But writing really is more of an escape for me. It allows me to work through concepts that I read about and things that are of interest to me. And I have just always fell back on writing. Taylor Swift's song called Eyes Open. I must have listened to it right before going to bed because I had the most exciting nightmare. And I woke up and I could remember my main character, Lana, like on the run, and she was being chased by monsters and men. And the whole landscape was just fantastical. It was just so vivid. Like I tried letting it go and just focusing on another story that I was working on, but I was consumed. It's a song from the soundtrack of Hunger Games. So it's talking about like even when you're sleeping, you have to keep your eyes open. There are threats all around and people are watching you and you have to always be vigilant. And that really inspired my main character, Lana, because she grew up being told that she was bad or dirty, and her parents, they loved her, but they have baggage of their own. And so she's kind of has those chains kind of still holding her down. And that's one of the things that she has to work through. Her own image of herself.
Does that in any way relate to you?
Probably. I guess now that you mention it, it might have something to do with working in a factory and feeling like maybe that was all that there was for me. And it doesn't matter. Like you can talk to people and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you work in a factory? I never would have guessed, because we have these preconceived notions of what that means and what limiting behaviors are tied to that idea of being a factory worker.
True.
And I guess I kind of do feel like I had to break through from that.
So what happens to Lana?
Well, she has to flee her home and she's being chased by a couple different really ruthless threats, one of which are bounty hunters. And she has to travel across the country and she encounters different cultures and she has to decide what kind of person she wants to be along her journey. And if she makes it, what does she want to do with that? It's easy to fall into safety and allow other people to make the decisions for you, but she has to fight that notion as well and become her own change maker. Like it started from a dream, and then the dream led into a story, and then the story led into a novel, and then 2, and now it's a series of 4. It's called The Seasons of Change, and I am really excited about it because every book is a little bit different. Like this first book is more of a character-driven plot, but the next book is much more expansive. And I'm getting really excited. I'm working on it now, and I'm creating this really diverse and colorful world. The concepts from the first book are really being built upon. I have a Facebook page and I have an Instagram page that's HalHers, HAL.HRS, which is an anagram for all of my names. I guess I'm doing like little snippets of book 2 and behind the scenes of everything, and really letting my fans get a really deep look into what's going on. And then there's also stuff like if I have a book tour coming up or book signing event or this, radio interview.
So are you getting responses from people online?
Oh, yeah. I have a few really dedicated fans, which I absolutely love. And it seems like every day a new opportunity is opening itself. And the whole experience has been very inspiring, and it's a lot more than I would have expected. Like, as far as interacting with fans, they are so great. Like, every time I ask somebody about the book, everybody has something different that is their favorite.
How many people are we talking about?
Um, Probably upwards of a dozen.
Good for you.
Thank you. I love the fact that I'm able to go to the library and just take all of that awesome knowledge and put it into my writing. Because my novel series is fantasy, but it is very much based on real life, as much as it is my love of D&D and Pathfinder.
Oh, okay, I get that. Listen, we'll talk again. A retired chiropractor and clinical nutritionist, Dr. Charles Lemon, thought it was time to set the record straight on what he calls an endless stream of medical and healthcare myths, outright lies, and unproven and unsafe practices in his book, Five Alive.
The biggest thing is every major disease, syndrome, disorder, and health threat that is associated with the way we move, eat, and sleep. Everyone moves, everyone eats, and everyone sleeps each and every day. And how you perform each of those actions basically determines how healthy you are. I mean, this is a big, big issue. We have changed each of those three major things that the book is about: moving, eating, and sleeping. And we've adapted artificial and unnatural means in dealing with conditions that are associated with that.
All right, so give me an example.
How about moving? Everybody rides exercise bikes and walks on treadmill, and our bodies are not designed to do that. And I know the common thing was, well, it's better than nothing. Well, it sometimes can be harmful. Walking on a treadmill, they did a study, young men walking on a treadmill for 20 minutes caused a decrease in the disc height in their lower back. And most of us aren't young, healthy men. And what happens is it artificially causes a biomechanical change in the hips, and it transmits the pressure to your lower back, and that decreases the disc height, which is, the initiation of disease processes.
So what should we do instead?
Walk outside. Walking outside is a better option. Walking on a treadmill has risks. Sleeping, of course, 80 million people in the United States now have issues with sleeping or depression. And the standard treatment are drugs that have serious side effects. Sedation is not sleeping, not even close to being the same. I mean, how many people now use machines to help them sleep? In Five Alive, we specifically discuss this. It's one of the major sections: moving, eating, and sleeping. We adopt natural ways to help you sleep and utilize the way your body's designed to sleep. The time of day that you go to sleep, what you do to prepare your sleep environment, all those type of things are discussed in the book in great detail. And they're clinically proven, scientifically validated, and once again, they're the way your body was designed to work. And even eating, everybody knows eating. We eat artificial processed foods, and it's completely changed the process. We're also told enormous amounts of misinformation. Everyone is dehydrated. That's absolutely not true. Always stretch a sore muscle or a joint. Sometimes that could be harmful. Artificial sweeteners are effective in helping you lose weight.
That's an old one. Artificial sweeteners. I go crazy. Didn't they prove a long time ago that people who drink like diet soda and use artificial sweeteners actually eat more calories?
There's a multitude of clinical studies that not only show that, still to this day, the American Diabetes Association recommends artificial sweeteners as part of a healthy diet. I mean, it's puzzling to me. That's why I wrote this book. For years, people would come in and they'll say, well, I heard this, or they recommend this. And I'm saying, and I tried to show people studies, and it got too complex, and I didn't want to overwhelm them,
right,
with information. So I said, hey, here's the facts. Somebody comes in with back pain. So-and-so told me to stretch it and take acetaminophen. Well, acetaminophen, huge, not a study, a review, New England Journal of Medicine showed that not only is acetaminophen ineffective for low back pain, it's not very effective or marginally effective for knee pain and hip pain. And 52 million people take ibuprofen every week. Yeah. So why are they still being recommended something that doesn't work? I don't understand. And I quit trying to answer, for other healthcare providers. So that was one of the, goals of writing this book is simple, safe, and scientific applications for people that can do simply, and nothing's expensive to do. You don't have to buy anything.
Well, we like that, Dr. Lemon. And you can find out more at 5alivebook.com. William J. Ruck is also a chiropractor, and his daughter inspired him to write The Level Pelvis Method, a guide to pregnancy and birthing ease when she was expecting.
7 years ago, we try to take a beach house every year for a week. And my daughter, she can't get out of the car. She can't walk. She's due in 3 days. So I had already heard she was starting to have some trouble. And I had a chiropractic table set up on the deck behind the house. So I put her on the table. She's tilted up, so you don't take a very pregnant woman and put her flat on her back. You don't do that. And so I show Randall, her partner, how the front of her pelvis, there's these two bony landmarks, right and left side. They're called anterior superior iliac spines. And you get in there, and you have to get in there on the end of each, and there's a point. Bones. I have him put his fingers there and show him that her left ASIS is way high back towards her hip compared to her right side. And I just show him this. I said, do you see how those two bones are not lined up? I said, here's what I want you to do. I put her right leg up against your thigh and take her left leg and gently pull and tug and tug and tug. Go check, and then go back and do it to more until you want dead level. And then take this little pillow and put it underneath her left hip, and then push the right side back just a little bit so you want dead level in the front and on the top. Took 3-4 minutes. She rolls over onto her right side. I say, don't roll onto your left side. And she stood up, did it, and they went for a walk for 2.5 hours on the beach. Oh. This is Saturday, right? She's due on Tuesday. 2 or 3 times later on Saturday, we just check her. I just want Randall to know the procedure. The goal here being that during labor, he keeps her level. And so Monday morning, we went into labor. Stinson Beach is on the coast of California with a mountain between it and the rest of the Bay Area. And by the time she got to the top of the mountain, she was out of labor. The midwife said, don't come to the birthing center, go home. That was Monday. Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, she went into labor. It's on her due day. And 8 hours later, she delivered the day after that. And the first person I encountered is my ex-wife holding my granddaughter. And she says, whatever you taught Randall to do to help Rachel was extremely helpful. Thank you very much. So I have an office manager. Her mother is a nurse midwife. And I tell her this story. And she says, show me what you did. And I do. And she gets what I'm doing, leveling the pelvis, level the pubic bones. And 3 months go by. She says, I'm now the go-to person for difficult labor and deliveries at Alta Bates and Summit hospitals.
Because of this method that nobody knew about leveling your pelvis.
Correct. I said, how many of these stalled labors are musculoskeletal alignment? She goes, all of them. I said, can we teach the OBs how to do this? And she laughed so hard she rolled off the table. She says, how are you going to teach people that make money off of 40-hour labor in an emergency C-section? And what this book says is that's preventable. I have a website called The Level Pelvis Method. I have videotaped her. We've done some seminars with midwives, and we're just getting this unbelievable feedback. So the women that have used our method, not even with a midwife, just because we want this home delivery stuff. I mean.
All right. So you have a website where people can go to find out more about this. What's the website?
Correct. The Level Pelvis Method.
Okay, that's all we need to know. Levelpelvismethod.com.
Yeah.
Good enough, Dr. Ruck. And with that, we're going to take a little break, but we're coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
You're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. E.W. Johnson was a small-town doctor who retired to Hawaii, where he was inspired to pick up his lifelong love of writing. Now he's published Unraveling. So let me get this straight. You wrote one book you weren't happy with and started another, and then what happened?
But that led to the development of a new character, and this is the real stretch part. This is a small town physician that realizes there's been an unexplained uptick of cancer cases in his local community, and he sets out to figure out why that's happened. And along the way kind of stumbles through a mystery, and he's not a superhero guy. He doesn't know anything about martial arts, and he doesn't like guns, but he just doesn't take no for an answer. And even if that means bending the law a little bit along the way, that doesn't bother him as long as he gets closer to a solution. So he ultimately figures out what's going on in his local community, and during that process, there are people that have been involved in creating that problem that don't want that secret to come out. So he ends up in kind of a dangerous situation, but with help from family and people in the local community, ultimately solves the mystery. So when that book was completed, because he kind of enjoys solving these mysteries, he just moves on to the next one and the next one. So now I've completed 7 novels in this series based on the Dr. Sean Nolan character, and will be to market with the second book in the series about the 1st of December. My only concern at the beginning of this was just writing the stories in the first place. So, word of mouth, friends, relatives, patients, Facebook, any way that we can get word out. We've had a number of pretty good reviews that are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I've done some newspaper interviews, here and back home, but until about 2 weeks ago, you didn't go anywhere over here. Everything was sealed tightly. So
Wow. Yeah, it's been crazy, right?
every step of this has been very educational. I thought writing a book was difficult, and then I learned that the editing and rewrite process was much more difficult, and then you get into page design and cover design, and I think it took about a month and a half to complete the first book and about a year to get through the process of bringing it to market. So,
But people have had some success marketing it themselves, and you just kind of got to talk to people that have done it successfully and get ideas. And I mean, why not? What else are you doing? It can be done.
That's right.
So, all right, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, well, thank you very much for getting on the phone with me. I appreciate it.
All right, I will talk to you soon. Linda McCain likes writing stories that benefit others, and in her book, My Father, My Son, Teenagers Are the Focus.
So I wanted to write a book that shedded a totally different light on teenagers and highlighted their accomplishments, in the midst of adversity, and then just in life general.
To raise a teenager is to love a teenager. Am I right, Linda?
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. The main character in my book is 17-year-old Bray Berman. Bray is just a phenomenal teenager, very intelligent. He's handsome. He's a star athlete, and he is just every parent's dream. But unfortunately, one night he meets with a situation that turns out to be tragic, and it leaves him facing a monumental challenge. But I think the essence of the story is how Bray faces this challenge with the help of his family and with the help of his friends. His perseverance in life never wavers. His determination never wavers. Adversity doesn't discriminate. We can all meet with adversity or tragedy at any time. But more often than not, the type of adversity that Bray is left having to deal with is an irreversible one. And I guess what I'm trying to help people to appreciate that young people are amazing in the sense that, sometimes they face a lot, but they say a little, but yet they face life's challenges with remarkable courage. And I feel that any person who reads My Father, My Son will develop a greater appreciation for teenagers. They will develop a greater appreciation for their strength and their endurance.
Does something happen between the father and the son?
Yes, Bray's tragedy is a result of something that transpired or took place between he and his father. And incidentally, he loves his father. His father loves him, of course. What makes My Father, My Son exceptional is the ability of the son and the family to continue to work on that closeness, that bond, even though, they're facing this challenge.
How are you telling people about this book?
I have 3 methods of marketing my sites. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and I just have good, strong connections with family and friends. They in turn tell others, and my attendance as a result grows for the Zoom meetings. Gotten some really good
Well,
sales
good for
as
you,
a
Linda.
result.
Thank
And,
you.
I
Don McCrae
I have
Hendrick is a
sharpened
former
my
CEO of a
skills,
hospital consulting
hopefully,
company who
as
sued
a
a venture
presenter.
capitalist company
What
for
I have
$4 million,
also done is
and
I've
that enabled him to become a
scheduled for
full-time writer.
future
The title of
book
his
events
first
or
published
book
book certainly
signings.
gives you
I
plenty to
don't
think about.
let
An
the
owner's manual
pandemic
for
prevent me
consciously
from
evolving
marketing.
your
I try to be
consciousness.
proactive
Romancing
in
the
all
Absurd,
areas of
a
life.
mystery novel based on reinvented reality. Don, what are we talking about here?
Well, Barbara Marx Hubbard first brought the attention that we could consciously evolve our consciousness. And I was working on a master's degree at Chico State, and I started reading all the articles I could on evolving one's consciousness. And all those articles I read were intellectual articles. They didn't really tell you how to do it. So I wanted to write something that would tell people how to work on consciously evolving their consciousness, although my book is geared towards jumpstarting the process. There's 2 aspects to my book. The front part, which is the owner's manual to consciously evolve your consciousness, and then I have a novel, romancing the absurd. It's all one book together. How to use the brain, how to meditate, how to chant, neuroscience and neurogenesis, how to grow new stem cells.
And then
Right.
what's Romancing the Absurd?
It's a sensational, satirical, literary murder mystery, a story about redemption for the author, Tony T. Tremblay, and he's the main character in the book, but I wrote it as if he wrote the story, even though he's just a fictional character, and I wrote the story. And there's 4 main people in the book: Tony T. Tremblay, who the author, Jim Bacon, one of the venture capitalists, Letitia Trachatoria, an old girlfriend of Tony's, and Ro Beck, who also was a venture capitalist. I bring them together by romancing the absurd. Tony T. Tremblay and Jim Bacon work on consciously evolving their consciousness in the book. So that gives some real life experience to it. The conscious evolution is only about 50 pages, so that's pretty small for a book. So I wanted to attach the romancing the absurd story because it's related to the book. So they're kind of a pairing, if you will.
So what is the mystery that they have to solve?
They're venture capitalists, the whole thing, and Tony G. Tremblay becomes one of the attorneys that's working the case. He doesn't really know what's going on and what's happening, and 9 people wind up getting murdered. So the mystery is solving the 9 people who get murdered. And what I do, I write what's called reinvented reality. I take stuff in my life that really happened and I just reinvent it, and that's what I did with Romancing the Absurd. There's no murder mysteries in my real
All
life.
right,
That's
Don,
all
thank
fiction.
you so much.
But
And
the things that
I
happen
think that's all
and
the
what
time
the
we have
people
for this
did
edition of the Page Publishing
were
Book
actually
Club. I see
reinvented
Remote Rob
reality.
over there
It's
shaking his
written for
head.
a
Yeah.
person that's
Time to
number one
wrap it up.
interested in
Listen, tell your
evolving
friends to download the
consciousness. Two,
podcast at
someone likes the satirical
710WOR.com
murder
and,
mystery.
take some
I guess
notes
the
at
takeaway
Thanksgiving, why
is
don't you? I mean,
redemption.
everybody gets a story at
Redemption
Thanksgiving,
is
especially
the key to this
at a
whole
very
thing.
special COVID Thanksgiving. Whew, gonna be some small turkeys on the table here in the Northeast where family gatherings are being limited, and the only thing that's good for is the aunt, uncle, sister, brother, or relative you're not sure of, or who drives you nuts has to stay away. But it's not about nuts this year, is it? It's about being safe. So be safe, be happy, and I'll catch you next time on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.